Hi Jeff, Melinda Tawil from Camarillo, California. Normally temperate to Mediterranean climate, we're 4 years into a very deep drought right now. Welcome to my final project video. The photo you're looking at is my front yard redesign project, designed and executed while I was taking this PDC course. I'll take you on a quick tour of the rest of the property where I've been applying permaculture principles for about 2.5 years to rehabilitate it. And please do have a look at the written brief and master plan for more details. But for the sake of this video exercise, I'd like to focus on the front yard. And I should tell you that this is Zone 4 on my property use map. I'll start the tour with this nice big double gate that gives plenty of new access to the backyard. I bring in a lot of mulch and dirt into the back, so this will really help. From here on out, it's all about the water, starting with this drainage swale, as opposed to a soakage swale. The previous owners of these two houses put this in to send their rainwater out to the street where it makes its way to a storm drain, and then to the ocean. I hijacked it. I put in a 3-inch drain pipe across this secondary driveway that carries it to a swale. When the swale is full, it goes back into the drainage and into this plant bed. Now, I not only get my runoff from this side of the house, but I get my neighbors too. Even more rainwater is directed into the top rain garden. The water from the gutters comes down the rain chain, out the bottom of this pot, and flows passively over this rock bed. I simulated some erosion just to direct it more precisely, and stabilized it with rocks. Now I get water from this rooftop, and this one, and half of this one. Oh, and when we had a recent rainstorm, these features performed beautifully. Next, I have a gray water collection pit for the waste from my RO filter on the other side of that wall. If misconceptions about kitchen sink water reuse subside, I'll use the rinse water from one bowl of my kitchen sink too. I am still looking for a place to buy Salicornia, which can stand up to the saltwater residue in my softened water. But the hardware is in and ready to go as soon as I get that planted. This old jacaranda tree has been producing seed pods since we moved in 4 years ago. Choked by agapanthus around the trunk and root exposure from erosion below have left it possibly too stressed to recover. A new, taller retaining wall, some extra soil, and removal of the agapanthus will hopefully be enough to save it. But if not, there's a new honey locust nearby to take over the summer shading duties. You may notice that the planting is pretty sparse. That's done on purpose while I wait for a good rainy season. Once I start to see weeds popping up, I'll add plants to take up the surplus. Meanwhile, these pioneers will live happily with the amount of moisture they receive. The plantings around the swales are very special. Their day job is to grow up and shade the house from the blistering summer afternoon sun. And of course, these mesquite trees will produce a great mulch, and the fruit trees will add to our stability. But these are also tribute plants, in honor of people who are no longer with us. My family is engaged by these plants, which match the personalities of people we've loved and lost. Now let's move on to the other side of the driveway. Oh, here's a happy accident. This was just DG until we got that rainstorm. Runoff from the driveway eroded it, so I put some stones to mark the spot. Next fall, I'll plant something where it can take up this bonus resource. I have a mesquite tree here at the bottom of the hill where it needs no extra water. This elephant bush is a great carbon sink. So good, in fact, that industries in South Africa plant fields of it for carbon credits so they can keep polluting. I planted it by the street and the driveway to absorb car exhaust. And finally, there's a gray water basin for laundry water. Again, it'll have to wait for Salicornia, but it's all ready to go. Oh, and one more happy accident. Hopefully these nasturtiums will cover this whole wall. Now for the backyard. Here we are outside the back door in Zone 1, and plantings serve double duty as decorative beds and salad and tea sources. Further down, past a lawn that's now appropriately sized for kids to play on, are beds for perennial veg and root crops. The empty bed under the giant ficus privacy hedge has manure and mulch, and it's getting ready for a shade-loving understory plant, like coffee. The hose you see weaving its way in and out is an overflow for the rain barrels that route most of the roof water from the back of the house to the food forest. This is the oldest section of the food forest, my Zone 2. Previously lawn, this area was highly compacted and impossible to dig in. I started the regeneration process by placing check logs in a concentric circle pattern to take advantage of a slight fall from east to west, and covered the logs with bagged soil. Adding compost and mulch and green sand softened it enough to allow some small plants to go in. Tree location was largely trial and error, but I think I have most of them right now. The fence will be removed out of sight as soon as the barranca is stabilized. A hugelkultur swale runs on contour across the back and joins with the slope in the barranca. The barranca, after 2 years of periodic dirt deliveries from a local landscaper, is finally starting to have at least a skeletal form. The goal is to have one more level for neem and moringa trees, and access to the valley floor for future development. And finally, I'd like to show you this Google image of the barranca running behind my house. The written portion of this exercise describes what I'd like to do with it. So the end result of this process for me is the beginning of a new business. I've started a landscape design service that's focusing on water harvesting. Very good timing for the drought. And speaking of the drought, that's the other thing that this course has really helped me with, is I'm not worried about it anymore. I've taken all of the measures that I need to harvest enough water, and I've got appropriate plantings, and I'm going to make it through this just fine. And the idea is that I'll be able to help some other people do the same thing. Thanks for everything.